Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to this is going to be a vlog or just a video in general. I want to talk about how I feel. Whether I prefer old gen games or new gen games or the old gen consoles, new generation consoles. First of all, let me just tell you, I haven't actually played a PlayStation 4, nor have I played an Xbox One. I have seen gameplay on them, and I have seen some of the games that have been released. I'm not going to lie that I'm not really excited about many of them, if any, really. There's so many games that I am excited to buy that have already been released, and there hasn't really been a game apart from, I think, The Evil Within is pretty much one of the only ones, maybe Dying Light, that I'm looking forward to. But because they're multi-platform, I'm going to be getting them for the PlayStation 3. So yeah, with next gen, I'm not really too bothered. I'm not going to be rushing to get a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One anytime soon. Um, I'm not really fussed. I never really have been about consoles. I've always been kind of the same. I've always just got the console somehow. Like I've had it bought for me or I've bought it myself. I've never really gone, oh, I really, I've been excited to get things. Don't get me wrong, I've been excited about seeing a new console out and me getting it, but it's not like my main focus with games. I do like to focus on the consoles I already own, or some retro consoles that I want to buy, and I've, and I don't know, I've just never really thought like, oh, next gen, have to buy. Especially with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, as I said, I'm really not fussed. But that's not what we're on about here. We're on about what do I prefer, the new gen or the old gen. And honestly, I kind of prefer both because both, all generations, the old and the new, have games that are really well made, and they have games that focus on gameplay and story instead of graphics, and some focus on all of them. As you know, I'm not really fussed what the game looks like. If it has good gameplay and story, and if it's just, good gameplay, the story doesn't always have to be existent. As long as the gameplay is really good and I can get involved in it and the story does kind of help it drag along a bit, not in a bad way, you know what I mean, just keep going, then that's fine, that's cool, I like that. Um, Most generations have been able to succeed in that. Newer generations are very sort of graphical focused, but they are also story focused and gameplay, of course. But they are starting to focus more on graphics and make it look as pretty and amazing as possible and realistic. Um, One day we are going to get to the point where we can't really make it any more realistic. Um, but again, I'm going off track a little bit now. The reason I quite like the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. I do actually quite like them. But do I prefer them to the older consoles? No. Might be slightly biased considering I was brought up on the PlayStation 1 and 2, and I love those consoles. And the GameCube, they were my three consoles along with the Game Boy that I really just loved. I think they were my thing. That was my thing. Nintendo, Sony, that was it. I never had an original Xbox for quite a while, so I never really got around to trying that out. I do think that is a pretty damn good system, though. I have quite a few good games down there next to me. I have a shelf at least full. Not massive, just one sort of line on a shelf full of them. And it has some really good games on there, and I'm still collecting for them. In fact, um, I do have to say though, aside from being slightly biased because I was brought up on old gen, I do actually prefer old gen anyway. Thinking and speaking from a general point of view, I do prefer old generation games because they have so much to give. I'm not saying newer games don't, but they just have, I don't know, because I guess nothing's being released for them anymore. You can actually look at the overall bulk of what you can buy and what there is to offer, and I've always liked that sort of thing. Once you can see, what you can buy and what is on that, and some of the awesome stuff you can get, then I quite like that. That's what I'm still collecting for the PlayStation 1 and 2. I'm never going to stop because those consoles are just absolutely incredible. As I said, I'm not saying the newer ones aren't. It's just that if I had a choice to, get rid of my PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and keep all my old consoles, like all of my old ones from from before the PlayStation 3 and 360, I would actually be quite happy. Because also a lot of things, as much as I do quite enjoy achievements and trophies, I do feel that they're taking over just a little bit sometimes. And I understand with older games there was challenges and unlocks and that, but with challenges and unlocks they give something within the game. With the achievements they just give an overall point system. Now, don't get me wrong. Excuse me. Don't get me wrong. I don't. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, nor am I saying that I'm not in on the whole trophy and achievement thing. I do quite enjoy getting them, but I still feel they're taken over a little bit from the overall idea of a game and the challenges and that. Because when it says challenge complete, 9 times out of 10, it's actually nothing to do with the game. It's to do with an achievement. Um, Sometimes it has both. Sometimes it's achievements and something, you know what I mean. But I just love the way older games were created. I love the imagination. I love everything because quite a few games have started to been remade and ideas are starting to be revamped. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel that there's no sort of original concept anymore. And I think that's probably why I like the older consoles better because that's what the I'm not saying that obviously things weren't based off of anything. Of course, you know, a lot of games are based off of something that has happened to the person or, you know, whatever. But I just love the older generation of games a lot more than the newer generation, and I don't know why. I have no, aside from just the games. I think it's mainly just, as I said, the games and the gameplay, and just I don't know, just the general feeling of playing an old game just feels a lot better than playing a new game. But I still enjoy playing new games. I'm not saying I don't, you know, I'm not saying that I hate new games or I don't enjoy them. I love newer games. Any PlayStation 3 game, I have quite a few in my cupboard up there, and I love playing it. My PS3 is actually on, and my controller's charging, hence why I'm not playing it. But my PS3 is on, and I'm always playing my PlayStation 3, and I do get the same kind of enjoyment. But there's never, but although it's similar, it's not exactly the same. I shouldn't have used the word same. It's very similar, but it's not the exact same as what I enjoy with older generation consoles. As I said, if I had a choice, I would stick with just old generation consoles because there's so much enjoyment to be had, and there's just so much that I can do with these consoles and games. I mean, all I have to do is look over and immediately. I mean, obviously, I own games that I enjoy, but with some consoles, I can just look over and go, "Oh, oh, awesome! I'll play that." Even if I'm shit at it. Now, with games nowadays, sometimes if you're shit at a game that's kind of recent, you feel really punished. With this, though, although you feel a bit punished, it's still a bit of fun. You know, it's something you're going to expect. Another thing that I've also found is older generation games are actually a lot more challenging, and I'm not, and you know, I find them more challenging. I don't know why. I find newer games. I do find challenging newer games. That there are games such as like The Last of Us. That is probably one of the best games made on the PlayStation 3 ever, and just anything because it has that challenge, it has that fair balance that very rarely do games have anymore. Now, I think the reason is mainly because it's by Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog have been around for fucking years, so they know what to do when it comes to creating games. I'm not saying other companies that are new or old don't know how to do that, but there are companies that know how to capture that feeling of true challenge that's fair. Because some games have really unfair challenge. I'm not saying older games didn't have that, but the overall, you know, with older games, the challenge was a lot based on the player. And nowadays, like, if you don't get to that checkpoint in, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, then you're going to get swarmed by an unlimited amount of enemies. You have to shoot them or blow them up or some shit like that. And also, I think they are focusing quite a lot on FPS and action. There's not really many sort of platformers or I don't know about fighters. I haven't really been keeping up on fighters, but I don't think there's been many of them recently either. It's mainly been focusing on sort of action and shooter, and like heavily story based, like Heavy Rain and that, and fuck, what was it called? Beyond Two Souls. I mean, I don't mind games like that. It's just that I haven't really seen many good sort of platforms out there unless it's an indie game, which is why I quite like searching for indie games on the PSN store because they look just fucking amazing. Some of them. But anyway, as I said, I'm not saying that I hate new gens or, you know, old gens. Although PS3 and 360 are technically considered old gen, not old, but you know, old gen now because they're the last one. But you know, the current gen is PS4 and Xbox One, and I prefer the gen before PS3 and Xbox 360. But I still enjoy the Xbox 360 and PS3, although I do think, as I said, I would happily sit down and play a PS1 game anytime. But then again, as I said, I grew up with it, so it's something that I'm obviously going to do. As I said, I'll just turn over here. So, oh, look, Destruction Derby 1. And 2's in there as well. Let's play it. You know. And also, I think another thing that irritates me a little bit that I'll get onto is with newer generation games, people, again, as well as the developers, people are focusing more on graphics than, again, they are on the rest of it. And so I don't really understand why someone would focus just on graphics. Like, because I actually knew someone that was just like, oh, I'll buy the game if it has good graphics. Don't care about anything else. It's just like, I've never personally understood myself why someone can just think about graphics only. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you play a game on an old console and think the graphics are amazing, fine, or like you at the time it's like, wow, those graphics, but that's fair enough, but that's not what you focused on. You were surprised by the good graphics. But I don't know. Again, that's a different topic altogether. My personal favourite generation is the generation for Xbox 360 and PS3. As I said, I'm not saying I hate the newer ones, but that's my personal favourite. If any of you guys have a personal favourite, tell me. Feel free to talk to me. There's no restriction. Just if you want to let me know what you feel about what I said or how you feel about the generations you like, then go ahead. Tell me which generations do you like? Do you like the generations before mine? Maybe it's the N64, the NES, the SNES. Who knows? The Mega Drive or Genesis, whatever you want to call it. Anything like that. Maybe that's your thing. I'd love to know. Actually, I'm kind of curious of what sort of thing people are into, but I personally like the original Xbox, PlayStation 1, 2 generation. That is my era, and that's the one that I would happily play any day. As soon as someone says, want to play the PS2? Yep, let's do this shit, straight away. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. I think it's going to pretty much be a vlog of my personal favourite video game generation. I know I've rambled a little bit, and I do apologise, but these are kind of, just off the top of my head. So if I do, as I said, say the same thing over and over again, then I apologise, but I hope you enjoyed nonetheless, and I shall see you in my other videos. Bye.